And thanks for joining us this Saturday for Fight Night Picks Kicks. And hey, maybe you didn't know it, but Fight Night Picks, we have a website, fightnightpicks.net. So make sure you check it out. If you missed some of the YouTube content, it's over there. And hey, maybe you don't have enough time to watch some of our shows on YouTube. We also have the various Fight Night Picks podcasts featured on the site, as well as iTunes and Spotify, the latest episodes of Early Stoppage and the predictions, and soon to be a recap show. And the other way that you can support the boys, check out the store. We got some awesome shirts and hats over there. FightNightPicks.net. I mean, hey, who doesn't need a long sleeve shirt? A couple t-shirts. Maybe you're lacking. Maybe you need to add to the wardrobe. Or maybe you need to check out that Fight Night Picks Under Armour cap. Did I take that picture myself and Photoshop it? You're darn tootin' I did. So check it out, fightnightpicks.net. Without further ado, let's get into it. Fight Night Picks is brought to you by Vertiball. Head on over to their website. It's vertiball.com. And listen, it's an awesome product. It's a local company out of New Brunswick, Canada. So make sure you support those guys locally as well as Fight Night Picks. But they're the only mountable portable muscle massager. They can stick onto any smooth surface. They've got an industrial strength suction cup. Can support over 100 pounds of pressure. You can get really into those deep knots. I have one here at home. I use it for my back and my shoulders from holding up that Fight Night Picks Pick'em trophy. But listen, make sure you check them out. It's a great product. Like I said, they're recommended by physiotherapists, masseuses, and chiropractors across Canada, the US, UK, and Australia. And they're used by countless professional athletes like Minkah Fitzpatrick on screen there, as well as Clelin Ferrell of the Raiders. So if you head into the cart, make sure you check them out. So I've got a Vertiball massager in my cart right there. Use the promo code FNP. You're going to save 10% off your order. You're supporting this company here that I'm very passionate about in New Brunswick, Canada, and you're helping out us as well. So make sure you check them out, vertiball.com, promo code FNP, 10% off your order. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. It's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt Allen.
Oh boy, Matt, and we are back with yet again another episode of This Week in MMA, Early Stoppage, all the shows. No, I'm just kidding. This week, we have a great card. And for Question Mark Kicks, if this is your first time, A, we really appreciate you joining in. But B, you might be familiar with some of the technical difficulties that we went through last weekend. So Matt, I have to say it, we're streaming off of a different computer over here. We picked up a brand new microphone thanks to the fans out there. And I have to give a shout out to Jacob Cunningham and Donald E. guys who already hit up the super chat. We really appreciate you. And Matt, that super chat and that chat in general already as busy as can be. 266 people tuning in. You must have got the notifications. 40 likes already on the video. So toss us up a like. If you can, toss us up a sub. And Matt, I really have to talk about it. I mean, the fact that I got a little denim on denim this week, and I started out with a little bit of a goof and a gaff, and you might have thought, hey, this guy forgot what show he's on. Well, there's so many different shows with Fight Night Picks. We had an episode of Early Stoppage already dropping today, but the reason for the Canadian tuxedo and the bolo tie is the fact that we had Mr. Denim on Denim himself, Tebe, this week to preview UFC 256, to give us some of his picks on the card. And Matt, it was kind of just crazy to have Tebe on the show.
It really was. When I joined Fight Night Picks with Craig, I never expected to be interviewing country music stars one day. I just thought, hey, we'll talk about MMA, and that'll be a grand old time. But it's just kind of wild to see where everything's grown to. The support that you guys give us, too, the Fight Night Nation out there, it's just wild. Like, we're all kind of growing together. It's really exciting. It's really fun stuff. We have a lot of new content coming out, so yeah. Good times.
Just my 2 cents saying nice Canadian tuxedo, 100% branch on branch, or branch above saying denim on denim, and Todd with the double denim. So I did bring the Canadian tuxedo back. Tony likes it. I'm going to take off the jacket, though, because it's hot as hell. But overall, Matt, we have a great card coming up tonight. I mean, headlined by Deiveson Figueiredo taking on Brandon Moreno, and you couldn't ask for a better fight. Sean McMinn hitting us up in the super chat with the $5. We also have Garrett hitting us up with the $19.99. Tony Ferguson is back, baby. Super stoked. Let's grab the pop and popcorn. I mean, Matt, I came here with props, and Wyatt Kenny's saying that we're legends. I came here with props. I came here fired up. We got an hour and a half for the show. Before this, Will T saying, is that Joe Dirt? I'm assuming you're talking about Matt.
It's the next best thing.
Maybe it is. And we do actually have to give a sponsor shout out to Vertiball, because the guys at Vertiball, Matt, actually just hit a huge milestone on Dragon's Den up here in Canada, just like your Shark Tank down in the States, and actually you stole some of our Canadians for that show, and
true.
Kevin O'Leary and Robert Herjavec. But up here with Vertiball, the guys actually got a pretty sizable chunk of cash over there in Dragon's Den. So shout out to those guys as well.
Good job,
now,
guys.
Matt, let's talk about this card, and I'm going to switch over to the other view, because if we're talking fight of the night for this one, Matt, there's really only one. And listen, there's actually a lot of really good fights. But if you look at Charles Oliveira in the fight that he has against Tony Ferguson, I mean, how could this not be your fight of the night? I get it. There's some other great fights out there, but this one has to be almost top of the marquee. This one almost slightly eclipses our main event. What do you make out of this one?
So I think it's a pretty easy assessment to make. When Tony Ferguson's fighting, he's going to be involved in the fight of the night. And again, they really matched him up with the perfect dance partner. And I do think this is phenomenal matchmaking by the UFC's part, because think about who Tony Ferguson has to fight right now in the lightweight division who he hasn't fought already. Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, like, those are the elite of the elite type fighters, whereas the loss that Tony Ferguson is coming off of, I really like the matchup against Oliveira, because we don't really know where Oliveira's skill set is at. We just know that, okay, if Ferguson can beat him, he still belongs in title contention. If he can't beat him, maybe we are seeing sort of post-prime Tony Ferguson, if you will. I know the 12-fight win streak, it'll always be something that lasts in history, but maybe that isn't the same fighter we're getting anymore. So this fight has everything you want. It's got compelling storylines. It's got sort of a comeback story. We could have this new Brazilian contender, so I am so excited for this fight. And here's the great thing, too. No matter where the fight takes place at, it's going to be exciting.
Brendan Ridley hitting us up in the super chat saying, my favorite hour of the week. Let's get into it, boys. And hey, it is a great card. I have to kind of go up a little bit. There was a question there. DPS adding us saying, do you guys have any of your merch for sale right now? Matt, there's a box down there on the floor. You can hold it up if you want.
Might
But
as
yeah,
well.
there's all kinds of merch going on. Baza Raphael, thanks for FNP. Here's to the Allen brothers. We appreciate
Thank you.
as well. But again, Matt, if we focus on this one as a fight of the night, there's definitely a lot of shine around it. Matt just totally dummied all of those shirts. But again, either way, AA saying your volume's a lot lower than Craig's. I mean, the mic's in front of Matt, so he just has to speak up. But overall, if we have a look at this fight, it is a really tough one to try and gauge. I know if we're talking movers and shakers on this card, Tony Ferguson's line changed about an 18% clip during the week. So it is interesting to see that. A lot of people high on Tony Ferguson. I see a lot of people over there in the comments saying that, yes, you know, Oliveira has more than an opportunity to win.
Yeah.
I think so as well. For me, this is one that I'm going to stay away from. It is definitely a pop and popcorn fight. But either way, it is a very good fight. And the question that Phoenix Graves said, who's Tony's coach? Well, Tony is his own coach. So if we look at the question mark kick screen, if this is the first week that you're tuning in, hey, again, we appreciate you. I know we got 402 people watching right now, but only 94 likes. You can toss those up there. And we always do have to get the subs up. That's me saying my piece. But again, if we're focusing on this from a question mark kicks perspective, we're going to start back at the start, work our way through the picks. Maybe we had some changes during the week. Maybe some of the weight cuts didn't work in all that well. Torin asking if we're brothers. Yes, we're brothers. Does FMP do DraftKings? No, we do not. Not at all. I'm not good at the daily fantasy stuff. I don't focus on it. But either way, I do appreciate the question and the super chat from Garrett. And Garrett, you're filling up those comment sections, and I appreciate you for that as well. So let's talk about the start of this card. I'm going to look over to this side really quick so I can get to the fact that we have Chase Hooper taking on Peter Barrett in the first fight on this card. And Matt, if we really focus on this one, like I said at the start of the week, you know, Peter Barrett is a fully developed man taking on a much younger man in Chase Hooper. But I'm dead serious when I say that, because for Peter Barrett, this is a guy that is a big 45er. You know, he definitely fills into the division. Skill-wise, maybe not one of the best guys out there. Chase Hooper definitely has the upside, definitely has the higher ceiling. He's only 21 years old, 13-year age gap between the two guys. But Chase Hooper's still so green in his game.
He really is. This fight comes down to, what would you rather have? Bad striking defense or bad takedown defense? And it is sort of that story of two tales, because Chase Hooper, we've seen it. If the fight gets to the mat, he is kind of Mickey Gallish, if you will. If the fight gets to the mat, he's going to give anybody trouble. And Daniel Tamer a lot of trouble. But when he did fight Alex Caceres, and it is really hard, too, to judge where Chase Hooper is in his career, because Daniel Tamer very entry-level UFC talent, and that might be a generous way to say it. Alex Caceres, on the other hand, that guy's main evented. Like, he's fought Sergio Pettis, Uriah Faber. He's been in there with some killers. So to lose to a guy like that, I do always think it's a positive, especially a guy who's so young like Chase Hooper. I think you can learn a lot from that performance, go back to the gym, really make the improvements. And Peter Barrett's not the type of guy who's going to come out and knock your head off with one punch. He will give you a few different looks, and he will let you adjust yourself into the fight. So I like this for sort of a comeback fight for Chase Hooper. Again, I'm not going to predict Chase Hooper, featherweight contender, lightweight contender anytime soon, but I do think this is a great fight for a young prospect to have at this stage in his career.
And I mean, Bronson's saying there, hell yeah, Barrett's got some value. He definitely does for sure. And I mean, if we have a look at the odds, Peter Barrett is a sizable underdog. Right now, he's at a plus 243. Just yesterday, plus 308. So, I mean, that line has shifted quite a bit for Peter Barrett. If we have a look at Fight Night Picks on Instagram, I harp on it every week, but that's where we do have the votes for these. We put those out there in the YouTube community section as well. There's a large percentage of fans. 68% have Chase Hooper to get the win. That's 404 total votes for Chase Hooper to 192 for Peter Barrett. Matt, are you changing your pick, or are you changing your mind at all in this one?
This fight is really hard to pick, and it is kind of like for the reason that you had said. You have an adult fighting a child. It's just the child's quite skilled, if we're being honest, so I am going to stick with Chase Hooper. I do think this is not a layup, but you know what the UFC's trying to do with this fight. They want Chase Hooper to win. He's the more marketable of the two. He's the guy who they're going to invest more in his future. I'll pick Chase Hooper, but again, as an underdog pick, Peter Barrett's not terrible.
I don't think so either. Still sticking with pick Chase Hooper, right? 100%. I mean, the UFC was marketing this guy on Facebook. I talked about that on our pre-show over on Instagram. But yeah, it's one of those ones where Peter Barrett in the fight against Youssef Zalal got mopped. He did. This is a step down for him. For Chase Hooper, it's a step down from Alex Caceres. So you get to see what happens in this one. But overall, sticking with Chase Hooper. Now, again, we go to our next fight. We have Tecia Torres taking on Sam Hughes. And this was an interesting video to make. And automatically, people started to downvote it. Were you upset that we picked Tecia Torres to win? Were you upset because I gave Sam Hughes an actual shot to win? I don't know what people were upset about. But overall, I look at this fight as Sam Hughes is a very, very busy fighter. She's always doing something. She's pressing the action against the cage. She's looking to clinch. She might look to bring it down to the mat, which came to her detriment against Vanessa Demopoulos, or is it Crystal Vanessa Demopoulos? I don't know what name she goes with, but she's lost 2 in a row since beating Sam Hughes. And one of the craziest submissions I've seen this year. And then I look at Sam Hughes, the sandwich fight. So you have Demopoulos in the middle. The win that she had in her last one at LFA 93, great submission win right at the end, locks in the guillotine. And then if you look at the fight that she had before Demopoulos, a really nice performance. And I mean, again, always busy, always pushing the action, throwing nice kicks. She pumps that jab out there, and she throws a nice right overhand. But it's one of those ones where she does kind of spam it a little bit. Overall, what do you make on this? And Sam Hughes coming in here for Angela Hill. I know that line on Torres has changed so much. What kind of a shot do you give Hughes in this fight?
Not much. I gotta be honest. You were really complimentary of Sam Hughes in our prediction video, and I understand. We do have to look at it both ways. Tecia Torres only loses to the elite of the division. And for Sam Hughes, it's not a knock against her. Tecia Torres is a hard fight for anybody. She's lost to 3 former champions, and then Marina Rodriguez, who, not to say she will be a champion, but she looks like a woman who's going to be around in the top 10 at the very least for a really long time. So I like Tecia Torres in this fight. I think she'll be able to get it done. I've seen a lot of people saying that a prop on Torres for finish. It's really hard to say just because she does only have the one finish on her record. And also, she has really good ground and pound. I do think it kind of depends on what ref is in there to give her the stoppage on that. I know that's a bit of a controversial thing to say, but some refs will stop that very fast if you can get into a dominant position. Some refs will let it go for a little while. And with Tecia Torres, she's not like Francis Ngannouing you every time she's hitting you. It is kind of control over the power and the damage. So I think Tecia Torres is going to be able to win this one pretty easily, if we're being honest, but it's not really worth putting money on it. Just the line's too out of whack.
Andrew Thomas, at first you said you don't like women fights. Did you miss the Ye and Jacek fight against Zhang Wei Li? And you like the mood ring. You like the bolo tie. Well, that's fair too. Overall, again, in this fight, I'm not changing the pick. I'm keeping it with Tecia Torres. But again, Sam Hughes is pretty busy. To me, this is a fight I stay away from because the odds don't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, they do, but Tecia Torres has continued to gain. She opened as a minus 450. She's now minus 646 on best fight odds. Sam Hughes open plus 350, now at a plus 455. Tecia Torres, the 4th biggest mover on this card at 30%. That is a little bit of a surprise to me. And if I have a look at the total votes over on Instagram, 451 for Tecia Torres to 87 for Sam Hughes. That's good for 84% on Tecia Torres. Matt, That's kind of crazy. It's a wild fight. Now we look into our next one. And Matt, we talked about this one at the start of the week being the fact that we have Gavin, the Governor Tucker, taking on Billy Quarantilo. And Matt, I struggled with saying Billy Quarantillo's name for a long time. I thought it was Quarantillo or Corntillo, but it wasn't. And for Gavin Tucker, I've had people hit me up on Instagram in the messages, but also in the comments under this one saying, kudos to you boys for pronouncing it right. It's Newfoundland. And listen, I'm from Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. I'm from the East Coast in Atlantic, Canada. I know how to say Newfoundland. So for anybody out there,
we are, but
it's not Newfoundland, it's Newfoundland. I got screeched in a couple of months ago. I love the province. It's great. It's a good time. Overall, this fight, it's a really tough one to try and call because Gavin Tucker in his last time out against Justin James looked really good. I mean, he did get dropped in the first round, but he had a great comeback in that one. And we've seen it too. I mean, the fight that he had after the Rick Glenn fight, it was one where he really needed to come back, and he did, for sure. That southpaw stance, that whipping kick, he throws good hands, and he's slippery on the mat, too. He's a very well-rounded fighter. It's just a shame that we don't get to see him a lot more often. And from Billy Corntillo, the win over Spike Carlisle, the Kilburn fight, the fight that he had in his last fight, he just continues to put on really good performances, and it seems like a very, very long time since we've seen Billy Quarantilo really give up a lot in the fight. The first round against Carlisle, but apart from that, he's looked amazing.
Oh, 100%. Quarantillo is a guy who, he is a really exciting fighter, and I think that can be said for both guys. If you just like two well-rounded mixed martial artists, this is the fight for you. We're going to get the best of a little bit of everything. Because Gavin Tucker, he's got the jiu-jitsu, he's got the wrestling. Billy Quarantillo is no slouch on the ground whatsoever, and I do think people are sleeping on his grappling, because a lot of people think, well, oh, if Gavin Tucker can get the takedown, if he can really impose his will, Quarantillo is going to be in trouble. I got news. Quarantillo off his back is a problem. He's going to be throwing up a lot of submissions. He's very active, but no matter where this fight is, and these are the best kinds of fights. If it's competitive, no matter where you look, if both guys can take each other down, if both guys can submit each other and knock each other out, I think this fight is one of those. I am still siding with Billy Quarantillo, even though I could very easily see Gavin Tucker picking up a win. They both, it's not exactly a mirror fight, but they both do so much well that this fight can go so many different ways.
Robbie Bangs saying Billy stopped Alpha Ginger, and that's what put me on to Billy. He won a decision.
He did.
So there's that. But I mean, as far as his run in the UFC, so if we go back, Camilla Kirk, that one on Contender Series, great finish. He rallied back late. Jacob Kilburn, Spike Carlisle, and then Kyle Nelson. And again, this guy is a Canadian killer. He's 3-0 against Canadians so far in his MMA career. Another one of them in Gavin Tucker. So, Matt, let's have a look at the votes over on Tapology. It doesn't matter because we don't look at the Tapology votes. Over on Instagram, at Fight Night Picks, 440 for Billy Q to 136 for Gavin Tucker. That's good for 76% on Quarantillo. If we have a look at the odds, Matt, Billy Quarantillo's continued to gain this week. Open to minus 140, now at a minus 180. If you look over at Gavin Tucker, open up a plus 120, now at a plus 150. Those odds are close. I don't have him on any of my cards, Billy Quarantillo that is, but I'm sticking with the pick of Quarantillo in this fight. And I saw a comment up above, and we got to give credit where credit's due. Morphatrix saying Billy Q versus Gavin Tucker is a dark horse fight of the night contender. I definitely agree with you there.
Okay.
I think this is a great one. It's one that I'm going to enjoy. It is a pop and popcorn type of fight if I've ever seen one. Are you sticking with your pick in this one?
I am sticking with Quarantillo. I'm not going to lie. I've actually got him on a couple of parlays. So if I lose money, you guys can know about it now. But I do like Quarantillo. I just like the fact that he does fight in a very similar manner to Rick Glenn, who we've seen Gavin Tucker have a lot of trouble with. So not to say MMA math-wise I'm picking Quarantillo. I just think he can catch Gavin Tucker at a few moments in this fight. Really excited for this one, though.
And I mean, Matt, the guy, Rick Glenn, coming back next week. Really looking forward to that one. So we move on to a fight that was, well, it was on the main card, and then it wasn't, and now you don't have to pay for it. It's actually going to be on television, free TV. We have Renato Moicano taking on Rafael Fiziev, and I know a lot of people are excited for this one. If I had 3 picks for Fight of the Night, like if I had Fight of the Night roulette, I would go Quarantillo Tucker, I would go Fiziev and Moicano, and then our co-main event. Those are the 3 that I'm really looking forward to. I think they're going to be great fights. Somebody's saying that it's lame that we're doing pop and popcorn fights. It's kind of a staple of the channel.
Been a minute now.
Not that lame. But thanks for joining the party, I guess. Overall, this fight is really good because we know that Fiziev, he has a combat sports sambo background, rather. He's a striking coach at Tiger Muay Thai. He really brings it in his fights, and he really fights with such an aggressive style that the one thing that I do worry about is Seth Wenzel hit us up with $139 in the super chat. Wow. Which is absolutely insane. So Seth, The floor is yours, saying back at it again. You have a 16 parlay with Quarantilo, Pineda, Gane, Holland, Ferguson, and Figgy. You're gladly eat your words if Holland loses, however. Keep up the great work. All the love from Vancouver. Over on the other side of the country, Seth, you're the real MVP. Yourself, Brennan, Garrett, Baza, who else? Will T, Sean, Jacob, and Donald E. Guys. This has been an absolutely wild fight, wild card, wild show.
We're taking the BMF title and we're giving it to you, okay? And I think it's well deserved. But Moicano Fiziev, I think this fight is so interesting, and a lot of people know Fiziev because of that lean back kick that he's been able to do in straight Muay Thai and in MMA. And the fight against Mark Jacare was phenomenal. I do think that's a very underrated fight when you kind of look back at the best fights of the year. Not to say it was up there with Poirier Hooker and Joanna Weili, but it was a phenomenal fight between two really skilled strikers. Moicano's in an interesting point though, because at featherweight you knew what you were going to get. He's beaten Calvin Kattar. He beat Jeremy Stevens. He's had good wins. He's had competitive fights against Brian Ortega. That was a phenomenal fight. But at lightweight, I don't really know where I can put his ceiling at. I know he's in the top 10 at featherweight, but when I look at what Renato Moicano does well, he's got good jiu-jitsu. He's a rangy striker. There's a lot of guys at lightweight who can do that. And it does sort of worry me for, okay, I don't think we're going to get a Renato Moicano title challenger at 155 pounds. I feel like I can say that quite comfortably right now. But I do think he's going to have enough to beat Fiziev in this fight.
And I mean, so do I. And it's a really tough one. So I want to get into some of the comments that are here because it could happen. 21, friend of the show, saying it was so back and forth on this one. You were so back and forth. But when in doubt, side with the boys. You're going with Moicano. I don't have this on any of my cards, but overall it should be a good one. Glenn Bacardi saying, Dustin Poirier said parlay Moicano with Figueiredo, and you're trusting Dustin Poirier. Go for it. I mean, I think it's going to be a great fight. Again, a lot of people going with Fiziev. So let's have a look and see what the voters at Fight Night Picks over on Instagram are going with. 254 going with Moicano to 351 going with Fiziev. Fiziev good for 55%. As far as movers and shakers on this card, this fight hasn't had a lot of movement. A 9% change in Fiziev's line. He's still the favorite. Open to minus 115, now to minus 126. The late money coming in on Mr. Fiziev. Actually, Moicano. Moicano opened to minus 105. He's now at a plus 104. I really struggled with that. Overall, again, I'm sticking with Moicano on this one. He's a very diverse striker. You look at the fights that he's had against really high-level competition. Some have gone his way, some haven't. I know I talked about it in that original prediction video that short, stout type of strikers, he either fires on all cylinders against them or absolutely drops the ball, and you saw that in the Aldo fight. You saw that in the fight against the Korean Zombie. But you look at the fights that he had against Jeremy Stevens and Calvin Kattar, and he's absolutely on fire. It's hard to play MMA math on this one. Fiziev's definitely on a heater. I'm looking forward to it, Matt. Let's continue on as far as this card is concerned, because in a fight where I see this one as cut and dry, we have Cub Swanson taking on Daniel Pineda, and Matt, I'm sticking with my pick of Daniel Pineda. If I'm wrong on this one, I'm going to feel stupid because I have Pineda on my card everywhere, but overall, I'm looking forward to this one. It's a really interesting fight, and it's a weird one to have in a feature prelim because Cub Swanson coming in at 37, Pineda coming in at 35. What's your ceiling at 145 pounds of a win here?
It is really odd, and again, it's for two guys who are a little bit later on in their career. For Cub Swanson, it's not exactly how I would matchmake him at this stage in his career, because with Cub Swanson, he still has a fairly recognizable name. You know you're going to get a fun fight from him no matter what. Daniel Pineda's going to take him down and ground and pound him into TKO. Like, those aren't the fights you want Cub Swanson, the exact same way I do a Matt Brown or a Carlos Condit, or any of those sort of the all-violence teams from, like, the early 2010s. Cub Swanson is firmly on that team, and I just want to see him in fun fights at this stage in his career. Now, I do have Pineda on a few cards as well. I'm not nearly as confident with that pick as Craig is. Craig's been extremely confident that Pineda's going to beat Cub Swanson. I think it's going to happen, but I do see the avenue open for Cub Swanson. I do think he still has good cardio. He still has a very diverse striking game. It's just, what are you going to get with a guy who's coming off a torn ACL at the age of 37? So I'm going to pick Pineda. I do agree with you, but I could see a slight door open for Cub Swanson to maybe pull out a decision, one of those classic y'all must have forgot, but I really doubt it's going to happen.
I mean, Tyler Riccardelli asking a great question. LMAO, what is Craig wearing? I'm wearing denim. Well, I might as well grab the other piece of denim. I'll wear denim on denim just because it's a staple of Fight Night Picks, and if it's a really good night over on Instagram, I will be so hardy as to drop my phone. Hopefully didn't crack the screen, but overall, I'll be so hardy as to put on a Tebe song. And Matt, big Tebe fan, big country music fan, and he was actually on This Week in MMA, the relaunch of the show here on YouTube. Make sure you check that out. Tebe gave his picks for this card. We also had Adrian Yanez on, which was a really good interview talking about the state of the bantamweight division, the return of TJ Dillashaw, and he went off in that one. And I'm not just trying to promo an interview. It was actually a pretty good one.
Oh, yeah, it was amazing. He was a great interview. Gave us a lot of insight as to kind of where he sees the rest of the division. So, yeah, that was really fun time.
Didn't break my phone, but as far as these votes are concerned, 435 total votes for Daniel Pineda at Fight Night Picks on Instagram, 148 for Mr. Cub Swanson, and there's a lot of people going with Daniel Pineda, 75%. So if we have a look at our next fight, our first fight on the pay-per-view, we have Junior Dos Santos taking on a really tough out in Ciryl Gane. And Matt, this is tricky. Matt the Mick hitting us up in the super chat saying for the Broken Screen Fund. I'm lucky that I didn't break it. There's my camera. It's up there. You can see the Fight Night Picks banner in the back. And overall, we look at this fight, Junior Dos Santos and Ciryl Gane. I don't have anything on this one because it's so volatile. For Ciryl Gane, I do believe, we've been saying Brandon Moreno future champ for the longest time. Ciryl Gane is my future champ at heavyweight. And to see what this guy's done to this division in just 3 fights, it's got to be tough if you're Ciryl Gane because a lot of guys probably don't want to fight him. When we've seen fights fall through, he's had about 4, 2 of them with Shamil Abdurakhimov that have just fallen through. Now, I know he had this weird, air behind his chest type of issue where he wasn't able to fight. It is a tough one, but Matt, Ciryl Gane is an amazing fighter under Ferdinand Lopez, who gave Francis Ngannou a start before he relocated over to the States with my guy, Dewey Cooper. I like this fight, but JDS on a 3-fight streak seems like one of those guys just pining for a weird, resurgence, or at least a win.
I do see that, and I think this is a really odd fight for Ciryl Gane to take. Now, I'm not saying of course, I'm picking Ciryl Gane. You guys watch prediction videos, I'm assuming. I'm going to let you know right now. Ciryl Gane is probably going to win this fight. It concerns me that he's not the most active heavyweight, though, because we've seen Junior Dos Santos enter sort of this Andrei Arlovsky type role where he can just go volume heavy, and he's not going to try to land those big overhands or uppercuts and whatnot. So I can see the fight slowly getting away from Ciryl Gane if he can't land a big shot. Here's the great news for Ciryl Gane, though. JDS can't really take a punch anymore. He's in that, BJ Penn level where the lightest punch, he doesn't really react to it all that well. And it's one of those things that, oh, Matt, how can you prove it? I can't. It's just, if you watch a lot of MMA, you can tell that guys just sort of reach this threshold with the damage that they can take throughout their career. JDS is at that point now where the shots that he used to be able to eat like they were nothing, they rock him now. And the shots that are just sort of the guys you always assume he would be able to beat, he's having trouble with them. So Ciryl Gane is probably going to knock him out brutally. That hurts my heart to say, I'll be honest, because JDS, always going to be one of those fan favorite guys, but just a really hard fight for one of the older guys in the division.
Yeah, je pense que c'est une vraiment bonne combat qu'on a ici. Puis j'ai vu Time Is Not Aligned, Gane le fait facilement. But overall, yeah, I'm sticking with the pick of Ciryl Gane here. I mean, I think France is going to get a winner. And if we have a look at Tapology, a little bit of a surprise for the votes. 86% going with the French fighter. 523 votes for Gane to 85 for Junior Dos Santos. Now, Matt, yeah, I'm not changing the pick on this one. I just can't. I look at our next fight, and this is another tough one. This is one that I didn't really throw a whole lot on. So, going through the super chat, Seth hit us up with another $6.99 saying that he's going to be rocking the Canadian tuxedo as well. Jairez? Hey boys, love from Ontario, Canada. Been watching for about a year now. Matt won me 7K at UFC 253. Adesanya Blahovic at night. Huge respect to the grind you guys are on. Keep it up, boys. We really appreciate you. This super chat's been one of the busiest ones that we've had. And Matt, we've got 2 really good cards coming up before the end of the year. We have a lot of different, content planned before 2020's over, just because of the fans. So this week in MMA, we brought it back because it was something that we really enjoyed doing. But if you can, check it out. It was a really fun show. We've got the recap show with yourself and John Franklin. We've got early stoppage with myself and John Franklin. There's been people reaching out. There's been a lot of positive support, but a lot of people that really want to help out the channel, and we do appreciate that. It's kind of insane how this has gone.
It's really, again, I'm just gonna start calling you guys the Fight Night Nation, because it feels like we've got something strong going right now. You guys are great. You come back every single week to listen to us talk about MMA. None of this makes any sense, but it is great. And we really can't thank you guys enough, because again, without you guys, none of this is possible. So yeah, shout out to y'all.
So we talk about this fight, Matt. Sircon Maz saying Souza by submission. Wannabe Uncle Johnny Smith saying Holland TKO in the second. ASAPB saying you just got off work. What'd you miss? I don't know. I don't know what you missed. You missed a great show. I'm doing denim on denim. Branch Above's the #1 FNP fan. Self-proclaimed. That's fair. And Meat Boy MMA's having a good time. Everybody's hanging out. Booch for Snooch. Fight Nighter Nation. Now, Matt, we look at this fight. Kevin Holland, Jacare Souza. And I'll be honest, before we even made our picks, I sprinkled a little bit on Kevin Holland. But I ended up changing my mind, going into the video, picking Souza. And Matt, honestly, right now, seeing Jacare Souza in this one.
So I've been going back and forth quite a bit on this fight, and hopefully we can just take an extra minute on it, because I do think it's a really compelling matchup. Because Kevin Holland, he kind of had everything going perfect for him. He was going to step in on short notice, which is something he's more than capable of. He was going to fight Jack Hermanson in the main event, a lot more eyes on his fight than most. And then all of a sudden, he gets like a weird false COVID test. They rearrange his opponent and Marvin Vittori's, and here we are. If Jacare is able to get this fight to the mat, I think he can have an insane amount of success. And he said it. He's like, if Kevin Holland thinks he's going to talk crap to me while we're on the mat, I'm going to break his arm. Now, that's a very intimidating thing to hear from Jacare Souza, one of the greatest grapplers in MMA history. It is weird, because Jacare has trouble with guys who can whip straight punches down the middle. It's almost like Kevin Holland's phenomenal at doing that. And Kevin Holland does have some of those Kelvin Gastelum-y aspects. Now, I wouldn't say his pure boxing is nearly as good as Gastelum's. I do really like Gastelum's hands. But just the fact that he's a really rangy striker. He does use his reach quite well. And Jacare can have trouble with guys like that. The thing is, though, Jacare's wrestling is one of the more underrated... I would say is some of the more underrated wrestling really in all of MMA. That's how good Jacare is.
And I gotta back that up. For him not to be able to take down Jan Blachowicz in his last fight at 205, I think that speaks more to the fact of how good Jan Blachowicz is than the wrestling of Jacare Souza.
It's almost like Jan Blachowicz has a 12-pound gold belt that tells him that. Jacare, and yeah, that was just a weird fight against Jan Blachowicz, so I'm not even going to really put much into that, but this fight does come down to, can Jacare take down Kevin Holland? Because Kevin Holland is a really good grappler against most guys in MMA. Jacare is a different animal, and if he can get him down to the ground, I think the physicality of Jacare is going to give Kevin Holland a lot of problems. We saw that in the Brennan Allen fight, and I do see this following kind of a similar pattern, so I'm going to pick Jacare, and I'm kind of confident about this one. I know I probably shouldn't be. Jacare is a little bit older. He doesn't have the best gas tank, but I like how these two match up.
And I mean, Booch for Snooch saying Holland wrecks Souza on the feet. Holland got to scramble hard. The question from Morgan Smith up there, does the reach from Holland scare you in this one? He uses his reach really well. He does. Overall, really rangy fighter. I mean, you saw that in, not the Dennis fight against Darren Stewart. You really didn't see it against Ontiveros, but you did see it in his fight against Joaquin Buckley, for sure. So we've seen it from him so far in the UFC. He was cracking Brennan Allen before it went back down to the ground. He got submitted. But overall, it is a good fight. If we have a look at the picks over at Fight Night Picks, 222 votes for old Jacare to 389 for Kevin Holland. That's good for 64% for the American fighter. The other thing that's weird about this fight and about Jacare in general, and we've seen this, we'll see it in the co-main event too, the fact that Tony Ferguson's now training out of Snap Down and pretty well Snap Down exclusively, and he's his own coach and he fired his dietitian. Jacare training out of Jacare BJJ, which looks like it's in his garage from the UFC promo videos. It works for some fighters, it doesn't work for some, but overall, I'm sticking with the pick of Jacare. You're pretty confident, Jacare.
I like Jacare. I'm not going to lie, I put a prop Jacare inside the decision. I don't think it's the worst bet ever. I can see him winning by submission. I really can in this one.
I'm starting to get really hot under the Canadian tuxedo, but for the purpose of being Canadian, I'll keep it on. Our next fight, Mackenzie Dern, Vena Jandiroba. To pronounce it properly, Marcus Edwards saying, love you guys, watch you every week. Let's go. We appreciate you. There was another comment that I wanted to get back to.
Oh, yeah. Someone way up there said I was looking handsome, so we'll acknowledge that.
Chase Collins has had a lot of good comments, too, saying Vena, second round submission. Also saying, would Kevin Holland be welcomed in my part of Canada? Yeah, he'd be welcome in our part of Canada every day. We're in a university town. It's a fun place to be. Sean Williams hitting us up in the super chat.
Thank you, Sean.
Keep up the great work, guys. Again, none of this is possible without you, and it's kind of crazy how we've come this far. And honestly, like, the super chat donations and stuff, I'm running off of two computers. I bought the other computer because of Fight Night Picks. Our audio cut out last week. I went out and bought another microphone because everybody's helping us out with Fight Night Picks. So you know that's what we're doing. And we're just continuing to try and make better and better content for you guys. So we really do appreciate you. We'll whip through some more of these picks, and then we'll go back to the bottom, go back through them again. If you came in halfway through, we do appreciate you. There's merch on the site, fightnightpicks.net. Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. There's a lot of Fight Night Picks content that I just think a lot of people don't realize. So it's all out there. We do appreciate you. Chase Collins watches every week, and that's awesome. Now, Mackenzie Dern, Vena, Jandi, Hoba. It's one of those ones where just my 2 cents is saying Vena has poor stand-up. Yeah.
They both do.
They both do. That's the thing. So Mackenzie Dern's been training out of Ruka Sport with Jason Perillo, and I bet you hitting his mitts are like this. Dish, dish. That guy just shouts too much when he holds mitts. But he's one of the better boxing coaches out there. I mean, he helps Chris Cyborg. He helped Michael Bisping reach a title. So there's that. And I think realistically, it's a good move for Mackenzie Dern to be kind of spreading herself between gyms, but especially at Ruka Sport working on the stand-up. Especially in a fight like this between Vena, Jandi, Hoba. Because we know from, I was going to say the Brazilian, but they're both Brazilian. But from Vena, Jandi, Hoba, the fact that, I mean, former Invicta champ, big win over Mizuki Inoue, who can definitely get it done in the stand-up. She's beaten stand-up fighters. She's beaten some grapplers. But this is definitely the toughest grappler for her. And for Mackenzie Dern, I know she's got the loss to Amanda Hebos. This is a really hard fight for Mackenzie Dern. This is, to me, one of the harder fights that you can give her. Because Randa Marcos, all right, she's tricky, and she's a tough out. But finishing abilities and Randa Marcos don't really go hand in hand. Vena, Jandi, Hoba, out of her 16 wins, she has 13 by submission and 3 by decision. She can definitely get it done. It's going to be a really interesting fight here.
I couldn't disagree more. I gotta be honest. I think stylistically, this is one of the easier fights for Mackenzie Dern. Now, I understand why you would preface that for Jandi Hoba.
She's can't a phenomenal wait grappler. Till you're wrong.
She's a phenomenal grappler. She can get it done on the mat. My only issue is Virna Jandiroba is not going to submit Mackenzie Dern. I do think on the feet, Jandiroba is going to be better. I do think her inside game is quite a bit better than Mackenzie Dern. Because here's the issue, and we talk about this a lot. Mackenzie Dern throws everything behind her punches. And I do think that's one of the worst things she can do. Now, if she lands, we saw in the Amanda Bobby Cooper fight, she can hurt people and put them down. The only problem is, it's not like she's the most accurate puncher out there. She's not like a... We'll use Tony Ferguson as an example, who's on you all the time, throwing straight shots, uppercuts, and whatnot. She's going to throw those big looping shots, and she will be susceptible to getting taken down. I just don't know if Virna is as good on the mat to keep her elbows and her neck secure the whole entire fight. I do see a submission for Mackenzie Dern opening up as the fight progresses. I would like to be wrong in this pick because I do think Virna Jandiroba has a lot more to offer against the elite at this division. I just think in this matchup specifically, I have to pick Mackenzie Dern.
Matt, if we have a look at the picks over at Fight Night Picks on Instagram, 338 for Mackenzie Dern to 253 for Virna Jandiroba. That's good for 59%. On Dern, if we have a look at the odds, Mackenzie Dern is a favorite. She opened a minus 156. That line dropped down to a minus 200 just on Thursday. Now back at a minus 166. So the late money's coming in on Jandiroba. The chat's having a lot of fun with us having a lot of fun getting fake upset at each other, kind of, but real upset. And Booch for Snooch saying, I think, Virna has a mental advantage. What do you think? I don't know about that.
I've never met either one of them. I can't speak to it.
Yeah, I don't really know. And Todd Hall saying you guys should make a bet on this fight. The bet is one of us ends up with a better record at the end of the night because I think we've agreed on every other fight up to this point. I think
so. You got oddly emotional over this pick.
Vena Jandiroba and Mackenzie Dern. I'm sticking with Vena. You're going with Dern. Now we get into our co-main event, and this one's really decisive. It was our pick for fight of the night. You have Tony Ferguson, who's on the 12-fight win streak. Now he's on a 1-fight losing streak. I guess you could say that. Taking on Charles Oliveira. I love the fight. What do you make out of this one?
So, I think this fight can go a lot of different ways. Do I think Tony Ferguson can knock out Charles Oliveira? Of course I do. He's very heavy-handed. He's got phenomenal volume and cardio. Do I think Charles Oliveira could knock out Tony Ferguson? Before the Gaethje fight, I would have said no. I would have thought, well, there's no way at all. The thing is, since the Gaethje fight, Charles Oliveira has become a much better striker. Not really just since the Gaethje fight, but just, I'd say in his last 7-fight run, there's just been this complete change in Charles Oliveira where he doesn't even look like the same fighter that used to fight. Now, I'm going to say fight at 145. He used to miss weight a lot at 145, but he moved up and Not that he's become this world beater. No one's been able to beat him yet. And the Kevin Lee fight was super impressive. If you can submit a guy like Kevin Lee, I understand Tony Ferguson was able to do it as well, but that just speaks to the grappling of both these guys. These are two of the better grapplers in the lightweight division and really in all the UFC.
Going back to George's question saying, is Jandiroba that much better in wrestling than Dern? Can Dern switch and get top control if she gets taken down? She definitely can. If you're asking about Mackenzie Dern's wrestling, she doesn't really use her wrestling so much in her fights. It's just the fact that everybody knows she's that much better jiu-jitsu than them, that she has, 0% takedown defense and 7% takedown accuracy. She doesn't really use it a whole hell of a lot because somebody might try and take her down or she drops them or whatever. She gets something and she finishes them. I mean, look at poor Hannah Cyphers. Yikes. That was a tough one. I do like Virna Jandiroba's wrestling, if that's your question, but overall it's a good fight. Now, if we focus on this one, Tony Ferguson and Charles Oliveira, the run that Charles Oliveira's been on is absolutely unprecedented. I mean, now he's the UFC's submission leader. We look at the last 5 wins. Jim Miller, just such a vet. David Tamor, watch your underwears. Nick Lentz, well, he's a carny. Jared Gordon,
weird matchmaking.
A lot of people like him. And Kevin Lee was such a big win over a guy that a lot of people always joke future champ, but really, that was a big win. And Kevin Lee's knees haven't been the same.
No, they really haven't. And in that fight, Charles Oliveira's striking looked phenomenal. I really liked how he's got this new kind of upright Muay Thai stance, and he has a lot more confidence with his stand-up. I do really think that's what it comes down to. He's at a place now where he's had enough fights in the UFC, he's fought enough high-level competition where he doesn't have to just rely on his jiu-jitsu anymore, and it's not like, oh, I have to get the fight to the ground to win anymore. Charles Oliveira can beat a lot of guys in pure stand-up. He's got great kicks, he's got really good front kicks, and I think that's something that's going to be a weird X factor that a lot of people haven't been talking about. Both these guys rely on front kicks a lot, and it's not something that we see from a lot of different fighters, but Tony Ferguson, when he's closing distance, really likes to throw the front kick to kind of gauge how far away you are, and same thing for Charles Oliveira. The difference is Oliveira throws that weird, jumping front kick, and if he hits you, it's going to cause some damage, so they use the kicks in slightly different ways, but I think we are going to see a lot of front kicks. Just a bit of a side note, I'm so excited for this fight. I know we've just kind of been talking about it. I don't really know where my pick's going.
Matt, in terms of this one, if we have a look at Fight Night Picks on Instagram for the total votes, 77% going with Ferguson. That's 466 total votes on Ferguson to 142 for Charles Oliveira. It's a close one. If you look at the odds on this one, Ferguson's a favorite and only slightly so. He opened a -130. He's now -156. Some late money coming in on Charles Oliveira today. Charles Oliveira opened a +110. He's now a +131. I expect that line to continue to move. It is a tough one to try and predict. I don't have this on any of my cards. My pick's still Ferguson, and this is probably actually one of the least confident ones on the card.
I agree 100%. I'm also going to pick Ferguson. I've got them both on a parlay, if I'm being completely honest, because that's how hard this fight is to predict. If Charles Oliveira goes out there and can get a takedown quick, I do think Oliveira has somewhat underrated takedowns. I do like that kind of body lock that he goes to and then he jumps to your back. Not saying he's going to be able to pull that off against a really good grappler like Tony Ferguson, but just something you have to watch out for. So yeah, going to pick Tony Ferguson. This fight's going to be amazing, though. You can't have a fight of the night without it going both ways. Momentum's going to be shifted. It's going to be phenomenal.
Matt, now we have to talk about something in the Fight Night Picks universe that's absolutely changed things overnight, and everybody seems to love the ad reads that I do. So, without further ado, I'll loosen my bolo tie slightly because, Matt, we have now with the team of Fight Night Picks Manscaped, and I couldn't be more excited about having Manscaped on board because, listen, I've heard about their products elsewhere. I know exactly what kind of a game they possess, but overall, since getting some of the products from Manscaped, it's changed my life. I mean, support for Fight Night Picks is obviously brought to you by Manscaped. Who's the best at men's below-the-waist grooming? Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels and the perfect package kit. I mean, it comes with a great t-shirt that, of course, Matt isn't wearing today, but it says on the back of the shirt, your balls will thank you.
And they
you gotta check that stuff out, throwing the t-shirt over there. A great pair of boxer briefs. Now, I like the boxer briefs. Big fan of them. Great stuff there. They fit well. Matt, a nice toiletry bag right there, but overall, you got to check out their great product, the Lawnmower 3.0. It's got the light on it, and that's why Manscaped, they've redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team has perfected the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created. They just released the brand new Lawnmower 3.0 in Canada, in the UK, and Australia. You already had it in the States. Now in the Commonwealth, we can pick it up. We are in a constitutional monarchy of a country in Canada. You probably just learned something new out there that's not fight related. But overall, when I tell you that this trimmer is premium, I mean premium. The battery's going to last up to 90 minutes. so you can take a longer shave. The 3rd generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. And Matt, I talked about it. One of the coolest features is the LED light, which illuminates grooming areas for a closer, more precise trimming. I shower and shave my nuts at the same time. This one helps out quite well. They've also upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. And let's not forget about the charging stand. Matt, Christmas is coming up. You're going to be Zooming with your family or Skyping. You put that puppy on your bathroom sink. People are going to ooh and ah about it, and they're going to need it as well. Overall, Matt, if you're listening to me speak right now, I want you to experience this firsthand. Let's get that bush and tush clean. Get 20% off and free shipping with promo code FNP at manscaped.com. Make your testes your besties. Matt, the perfect package kit comes with the Crop Reviver ball toner. Spritz a little bit of that on. Honestly, I did this morning. It comes with the Crop Preserver anti-chafing ball deodorant, a nice salve. Everybody needs a little pick-me-up around the holidays. And the Weed Whacker, Matt. I'm the type of guy that shaves my nose.
Craig has trees coming out of his nose.
Premium stuff. You can put it in your ears, too. That was kind of loud, but overall, it's a great product. So get 20% off and free shipping with code FNP at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Use promo code FNP. Your balls will thank you. Now, Matt, we did lose about 10 people there, but overall, I got to talk about Manscaped. I think it's a great stuff. Andrew Thomas is saying you're going to clog the shower drain. I don't know about that. It's going to work good. George, we lost George. He's saying WTF. Let's focus on this main event, Matt. We have Deiveson Figueiredo taking on the Assassin Baby, Brandon Moreno. I love this fight because, for me, we've been on the Brandon Moreno train for a really long time. That Askarov draw when he came back really surprised me because I was an Askarov stan from his ACB days, knowing how good of a grappler he was. And for Brandon Moreno to win in some of those scrambles, at least in the eyes of 1.5 of the judges, it really surprised me. Brandon Moreno's been on an absolute tear from the first fight back with LFA on since, and there really only was one LFA fight, but still, this guy's absolutely on fire. And so's Deiveson Figueiredo. I mean, the one loss to Jussier Formiga was one where he was so depleted from the weight cut. I know a lot of people were worried about the weight in this one, but you got to be worried for both guys. A lot of people are worried about the training for Figueiredo. You got to be worried about Moreno too, because they stayed in Vegas for a couple of weeks getting ready for this one. I know Walid Ismail talks a big game. Like I talk about Manscaped, he talks about his fighters. But I like that out of a guy that reps a fighter. He's so pro his guys, like, just blowing the horn as to the fact that Paulo Costa was going to beat Adesanya. It didn't happen. But really pumping the tires of Deiveson Figueiredo ahead of this one, and the UFC letting him.
Well, when your boy's Deiveson Figueiredo, it's really easy to pump his tires, because he hasn't had a competitive fight in years now. And really, that's the wild thing about Figueiredo. I know we had Demetrius Johnson, but with DJ... it felt like we were watching more of a GSP. He's just going to beat you. He can beat you on the feet. He can beat you on the ground. He can do a little bit of everything. But he's probably either going to beat you by decision or just kind of outclass you the whole entire fight, as Craig finds the perfect place to put his Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0. So for Figueiredo, he's got that one-punch knockout power. He's got... it's really weird to say where his submission game is, because you look at it and some of the times it looks like he's been to pop people's heads off, jump in the gilly. And then other times, that's how he's been beat. That's how Jared Brooks had success. He was able to take Figueiredo down quite a few times. How Formiga was able to have success. And it is interesting because Brandon Moreno can fight very similar to a Jussier Formiga. He has that high activity. He can go for a lot of takedowns. He's a very scramble-based fighter. It worries me, though, because when you look at what Alex Perez did, honestly, Alex Perez fought a pretty good fight up until he got stopped. He was landing okay strikes in the feet. He was doing quite well. And then all of a sudden he goes for a takedown. Figueiredo turns around, puts him in a guillotine. The fight's over. Brandon Moreno, I could see having long periods of success in this fight. I can kind of read it now. People are tweeting like, wow, Brandon Moreno, who knew he was this good? And wait, is he up 2-0? The problem is Deiveson Figueiredo can throw a Hail Mary at any point throughout this fight. And Brandon Moreno... he's got an interesting style because he'll stay around in the pocket and throw combinations. It's one of his strengths. But if he does stay around for that half second too long, if he is trying to get his one extra combination in, Deiveson Figueiredo is going to be landing bomb after bomb after bomb. And the question comes down to, how long can Brandon Moreno eat the shots from Deiveson Figueiredo? We've seen pretty much no one can take a clean right hand from Figueiredo, and that does worry me. This fight, I believe, is the most exciting fight the UFC can put on in the flyweight division. I think Brandon Moreno can do a little bit of everything. If he's going to stand and strike with Figueiredo, it's going to be the combinations and the volume of Moreno versus that one-punch power of Figueiredo. And on the mat, both these guys can scramble for days. So I actually think the odds should be quite a bit closer. I know Figueiredo is this dominant champion. He is pretty scary, but Brandon Moreno does offer a lot in this fight that I don't think people are really giving him credit for. All that being said, I'm still going to pick Figueiredo. I'm curious to get your thoughts on it, though.
Figueiredo minus 275 at the start of the odds, or when they came out, rather. Now at a minus 343. If we have a look at Brandon Moreno, the Assassin Baby, open at a plus 235, now at a plus 269. Matt, before I offer up my thoughts, Jesus wanted a shout-out. You get a shout-out, Jesus. Thanks for hanging out. If we look at the votes over at Fight Night Picks on Instagram, 539 for Deiveson Figueiredo, 74 for Brandon Moreno. That's good for 88% of those votes for the champ.
The disrespect.
Deiveson Figueiredo's on this level right now that just gets me so excited because he's really in that Fighter of the Year conversation. I think he's all but run away with it. Who else is on the level? Well, Kevin Holland's on fire this year, but he hasn't really beaten that level of
If he
competition.
beats Jacare and Figueiredo loses to Moreno, then you would probably give it to Holland. But I do agree. I think this card probably finds you who the winner Fighter of the Year is.
Bronson saying, I can't believe you guys pick against Moreno. You guys love him.
I do.
Here's the scoop. Just because I pick a fighter doesn't mean I don't like the other fighter.
Exactly.
It's a completely arbitrary thing. I mean, I pick against fighters I like all the time. I like Gavin Tucker. He's a good fighter, but I picked Billy Quarantillo. So I don't really, I don't get caught up in my feels when I make my picks, if that makes any sense. The other comment that was pretty cool is the fact that I have the Canadian tuxedo on and a ball trimmer in my pocket. Well, hey, if you see me on the street and I'm wearing this jacket, just know that this trimmer touched my nuts. And yeah, it's gonna be as weird as the sentence that just came out of my mouth. Now, Matt, in terms of this fight, yes, Deiveson Figueiredo is almost on this elite run that we haven't seen since, well, another guy at 125 pounds, Demetrius Johnson, because Henry Cejudo, he did very well. He beat DJ, he beat TJ, then he went up and conquered 35. But for Figueiredo to stick around at 25, I'm sure there's going to be a play for him at 35 eventually, because once you start to clean out some of these guys, is there much sense in me taking a fight with Pantoja? Is there much sense in me taking a fight against Askarov? Askarov maybe, but other than that, who's really worth Deiveson Figueiredo's time? Or do I move up to 35, try and coax Henry Cejudo out of retirement? There's a lot of different things that Figueiredo can do. But if we look at the last five, Pantoja, Tim Elliott, Joe Ben, and then Alex Perez, man, that's a nice little lineup right there.
Oh, 100%. And Figueiredo's doing it in a way, too, that we don't often see in the lighter weight classes. It's not like at 125 there's a lot of one-punch knockouts or first-round submissions, so he's really just doing it in a way that no one else has been able to at that weight class. I agree. Either bantamweights are going to have to start coming down to 125 pounds, or he's going to have to move up at a certain point, because there really isn't that many people in the division. And I would like to see a Figueiredo versus Petr Yan one day. I would heavily favor Petr Yan, if we're being honest, but it would still be a really interesting fight. It would give him the chance to do the whole champ thing. Maybe the UFC tries to reward him since he has taken 2 main events in 1 month. That's a very UFC thing to do. So, yeah, really excited for this card, though. And yeah, I think this card's really being slept on, if I'm being honest.
And I mean, sticking with the pick of Mr. Deiveson Figueiredo on this one. So, Matt, what we normally do is we go down through the card. I'm going to exit out of all the OBS things that I have open in front of me so I can get back down to the start. And there we go. We're talking Chase Hooper and Peter Barrett at the start. It's a tough one. It's a lot tougher than the odds would say. I know the Fight Night Picks fans over on Instagram going with Chase Hooper, the young man. You make me feel like I'm living a teenage dream. A lot of people didn't like my singing in that one. Disappointed. But overall in this one, I'm staying away from it. I'm keeping the pick of Chase Hooper. Way too volatile. Don't love the odds.
Yeah, there's a skilled young man against a full-blown adult. I'm going to pick the skilled young guy in Chase Hooper, but not a confident pick.
Pony Smorford's been asking for it, so I'll give it to you. You want to come on, Marab? Come on, Marab! And Branch Above, you're here every week. We really do appreciate you. Tasha Torres taking on Sam Hughes. Matt, as a recap, as far as this fight's concerned, Sam Hughes coming in on incredibly short notice. Team Alliance MMA with a little bit of a COVID issue with Dwight Grant and Angela Hill backing out of their fights. But as far as this one's concerned, Matt, I'm sticking with the pick of Tasha Torres. Sam Hughes might surprise, and if she does, fucking pats on the back, Sam Hughes. Congrats, but I do have Torres in this one.
I'm sorry, Craig's selling wolf tickets on Sam Hughes. Tasha Torres is going to win this fight. I see this one pretty cut and dry. Again, Tasha Torres only loses to the elite of the elite in this division, so it's really hard for me to believe that someone in the UFC debut is going to come in and knock her off.
Matt, next fight, we have Billy Quarantillo looking to go 4-0 against Canadians taking on Atlanta, Canada. I was going to say the Maritimes, but Atlanta, Canada's own By way of Newfoundland, down to Nova Scotia, Gavin Tucker. Matt, what's pick here?
I'm sticking with Billy Q. I think this is a phenomenal fight. And again, if we're nominating this for fight of the night, it means it's going to be competitive. Gavin Tucker's going to get his in this one, but I'm still picking with Billy Q. I like what I've seen from his UFC run so far.
I'm sticking with Billy Corntillo as well. Then we have Renato Moicano taking on Rafael Fiziev. I love the fight. I'm picking Moicano in this one as the underdog.
I am too. It's a tough pick to be overly confident with just because both guys are such high level, but I'm sticking with Moicano.
Yeah, that's a great fight and really looking forward to that one. We have Cub Swanson taking on Daniel Pineda. Really liking Pineda in this one.
Oh, yeah. Again, Pineda has 27 wins. All of them are by stoppage. And yes, the 13 losses, they're a little misleading when you go back. I don't really think Cub Swanson can fight Daniel Pineda in a way that a lot of his losses have come through. I really like the grappling of Pineda. I love the ground and pound. It's hard to pick against him in this.
All right, Matt, sticking with Pineda, both of us in that one. Then we have Junior Dos Santos taking on Francis Ciryl Gane. Sticking with Francis Ciryl Gane.
Yeah, you have one of the more dominant power punchers in the division against a guy who just can't really take a shot at this stage in his career, so Gane all the way.
Todd, thanks for the love, for the knowledge again this week, boys. Love you guys. Peace and love and peace and love. We really do appreciate you. So let's get into our next fight, Matt. We have Kevin Holland, Jacare Souza. This is another one. It's tricky. It's really tricky. I'm going to take Jacare Souza. He's actually the biggest mover on this card at a 36% clip. Let me find the odds in front of me. He opened a plus 135. He's now minus 113 favorite. Does that surprise you at all?
A little bit because, again, Kevin Holland's someone who people are really high on. But again, you got to remember, Jacare's been around and done that for a while now. And you can look at that as a positive and a negative with the amount of experience he has. But he's beaten guys a lot better than Kevin Holland. I do think this fight comes down to where is Jacare at in his career, not really where is Kevin Holland at in his career. And if we get even an 85% of Jacare, I think he'll be able to win this.
Fingers crossed. Branch above as Holland, same fight of the night. Sean's got Holland. Todd Hall saying 36. Let's see what else. We're talking about being from Texas. I've been to Texas once. Only been to Texas once. We've got Mackenzie Dern taking on Vena, Jandi, Hoba. And John Anik really nails that name. I've got the underdog in Vena, Jandi, Hoba, the former strawweight champ with Invicta. And I mean, the only loss on her record, a short notice fight against a former UFC strawweight champ in Carla Esparza, in a fight that was close. If I'm not mistaken, it was unanimous 29-28 for Esparza. But Jandi Hoba was able to do all right in the wrestling against Esparza, who's very good at wrestling in this division. I like Jandi Hoba, but I know we're split on this one.
Oh, yeah. This is going to either be one of the worst striking matchups you've ever seen in the UFC or a really, really fun scramble fest on the mat. I think Dern's going to have it. Not my most confident pick. I can see this going both ways, but I do like Dern's submission game. I like her ability to offer back, and if she's able to get a sweep and get on top, she's sure to have it.
All right, Matt. We've got Brandon Phillips saying Sam is trash. I mean, hey, buddy, show some respect. She's a UFC fighter. I see you out there in the comment section every week. I appreciate you, but don't say that about a UFC fighter, as the stream gets a little wonky for some reason on YouTube. Now, Matt, if we look at Tony Ferguson and Charles Oliveira, it's a great fight. It's our fight of the night. It should be a good one. It's a tough one to pick, too. There's a lot of really tough ones on this one. I'm siding with the former champ, the former interim champ in Tony Ferguson here, but it's tricky.
Oh, yeah, I'm sticking with El Kukui, but if he loses, like, who really knows where he's at in his career at this point? Again, Tony Ferguson's always going to have fun fights. He's always going to be a name that people want to see fight. It's just if he isn't able to get this win, I don't really know where he's at in his UFC career.
Yeah, it is tricky, and we'll have to see what happens. But again, overall, liking Tony Ferguson this one. And then we go to our main event. We have Deiveson Figueiredo taking on the assassin baby, Brandon Moreno. It is a great fight. It's one that we're certainly looking forward to. It's worth all marbles. I mean, they're putting this on in a $100 million facility, the UFC's Apex facility. On this one, Matt, we have Deiveson Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno. Final pick here.
This is going to be a phenomenal fight. I can see an avenue for Brandon Moreno to win. I really can. It's just hard to pick against Deiveson Figueiredo, who can knock you out, choke you out, beat you by decision. He's just kind of phenomenal all across the board.
Sub-Zero throwing his cheers. Blake hitting us up in the super chat with the Aussie money, I'm assuming.
Thank you.
Super keen on this card. Lots of finishes, I think. Keep up the great work, guys. Well, we definitely appreciate you. We appreciate the almost 1,000 people watching right now as the stream gets a little wonky. But overall, everybody that hit up the super chat, Booch for Snooch, Sean Williams, who else have we got? Seth, Matt the Mick, Garrett, we've got Brendan Ridley, Will T, Sean McMinn, Donald E. Guys, Jacob Cunningham. It's been an insane week. It's a great place to hang out, and there's a Discord too at Fight Night Picks. There's a lot of at Fight Night Picks stuff. I've got the denim on denim this week, Matt, because we had a great episode of This Week in MMA coming back. It was an awesome one. We had Tebe on, being denim on denim. That's his platinum song. But we also had Adrian Yanez on as well. So looking forward to more episodes of This Week in MMA. Early stoppage drop today. I put it out there in the thumbnail. Yoel Romero's looking for a new dance partner. Who's it going to be? PFL, Bellator, Combate? I hope it's Combate against Tito Ortiz, but who knows? There's a lot of great fights there and a lot of interesting things for Mr. Yoel Romero. And again, we've got the recap show. We've got so much stuff going on with Fight Night Picks. Again, it's all thanks to everybody out there. Of course. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Adam's hanging out, says, really love this show. You guys kill it. It's become a ritual to watch it. Pre-fight, the fight's starting in about a half hour. I'm really looking forward to it. Oh, Jace likes the denim on denim. Gonna dance all night. Matt, any final thoughts?
No, it's going to be a wicked fight card. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Again, can't do this without you guys. You guys probably tired of hearing that by now. But, again, Fight Night Nation's amazing. And let's make 2021 the best year ever.
All right, Matt. The other thing, we just eclipsed 18,000 subscribers as well. So that's absolutely insane. The goal is for 20,000 before the end of the year. That's a crazy goal. It's lofty, but I'm hoping for it. So if you're not subbed, please do thank us or help us with the sub. We do appreciate it. Toss those likes. And Matt, really looking forward to this fight card. So as we always say, with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, it's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig.